All right, G, Crazy Town. Let's do it a little earlier in the show. Joe loves Indian country. Roll it.
This is going to be good.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Please take a seat if you have one. I say that because one day I said, take a seat, and everybody said, he doesn't even understand there's no chairs out here. Well, I made a commitment when I ran for president. In fact, I made a commitment when I was basically a 30-year-old senator and a student of Danny Inouye, a senator from the state of Hawaii, who made it clear to me, because I said Indian country, said no, Indian nations. You know, I made a commitment my administration would prioritize and respect nation-to-nation relationships. And I'm going to make sure that happens. And that's why I relaunched this convening and elevated event into a White House Tribal Nations Summit. Because after the previous administration failed to convene any events, anything on this scale. Together, my entire administration is advancing the economic agenda and making historic investments in Indian country. I said Indian country should know Indian nations. I invested more than $32 billion in the American Rescue Plan, the largest one-time ever direct investment in Indian country, the biggest investment in Indian country, more than $13 billion in rebuilding infrastructure in Indian country. You've seen my wife Jill in Indian country. Last year, Jill, my wife, traveled with Deb to the Cherokee Immersion School in Oklahoma. By the way, she spent a lot of time on other reservations, other nations as well.
Oh,
I'm worried she's not going to come home one of these days when she goes. You think I'm joking? I'm telling you. I hear more about the Navajos than I hear about me. You all think I'm kidding, don't you? Anyway, this past summer, we're also ushered in a new era of confronting and adapting to the climate crisis. We made the biggest investment ever in all of history. Electrifying diesel school buses, so tribal children don't breathe that polluted air generated by diesel engines. I see our Secretary of Agriculture here, who's also made it clear and made a major contribution on seeing to it that we use farmlands to absorb carbon from the air and so much more and pay farmers for doing it. It affects the sources of tribal foods, tribal resources, tribal traditions, tribal ways of life. It's going to bring clean electricity into your home. It's going to develop homegrown clean energy. So Indian country helps lead the future to the goal we've set of 100% carbon pollution-free electricity by the year 2035. I've flown over literally several thousand acres of the storms and the fires that have been, and in the West in particular, and also down in the Southwest. The Violence Against Women Act, which I wrote myself 30 years ago, as my sister would kid and say, with my own paw. I sat down and wrote that.
No, you didn't.
Because I feel so strongly about it. So, folks, this is a whole changed approach. Is Catherine here, Cortez Masto? She and Senator Rosen, they both are, there's a little action going on in the United States Senate to try to prevent a great rail strike. Is Representative Lee and Horsford here?
I thought you were on.
You got the best of the group here, Dana. When I talk about respect, here's what I mean by respect. Respect for tribes as nations and treaties as law. Respect for... Yes. Beg your pardon? I thought you said no.
You speak with forked tongue.
I was getting a little worried. I thought somebody said no. But she spent a lot of time. I've spent a lot of time in Indian country as a senator and vice president, but I can say here today, I intend to make official presidential visits to Indian country. And I'm sure I'll make mistakes, but you know me. Don't hesitate to correct me when I make it. And I know you won't hesitate. Well, I tell you what, no one's ever done as much as president as this administration is doing. And as my grandfather Finnegan would say, that's the Irish of it.